The cold morning Natalie Bennett opened her eyes to an empty bed. Again. The silk sheets on the other side remained perfectly smooth, untouched throughout the night. She could hear the shower running in the guest bathroom down the hall, where her husband Declan had been sleeping for the past 18 months. The sound had become her morning alarm, a reminder that she shared a house with a stranger who happened to wear a wedding ring. She pushed herself up and walked barefoot across the heated marble floors of their master suite. Through the massive windows, the Seattle skyline glittered in the pre-dawn darkness. Their waterfront estate sat on 3 acres of prime real estate, a monument to success that felt more like a museum than a home. Everything was designer-chosen, professionally decorated, and absolutely soulless. The silent breakfast in the chef's kitchen. Natalie made coffee while Declan rushed through with his phone pressed to his ear. He grabbed a protein shake from the refrigerator without looking at her, his expensive suit already perfect, his dark hair slicked back with precision. He was handsome in that sharp, corporate way that graced business magazine covers. At 42, he looked powerful and untouchable. "Conference call in 10, he muttered, more to himself than to her, and disappeared into his home office. Natalie sat at the breakfast bar alone, stirring her coffee and watching the steam rise. She was 31 years old and felt like a ghost haunting her own life. 4 years ago, Declan had swept her off her feet with his ambition and charm. He had pursued her relentlessly, promising a life of partnership and adventure. They married in a lavish ceremony on the coast, honeymooned in the Greek islands, and talked about building something beautiful together. Then his software company went public. Success arrived like a tsunami, drowning everything else. The man who once cancelled meetings to bring her lunch now forgot their anniversary 3 years in a row, the breaking point. Natalie had spent the last 2 years trying everything to reconnect with her husband. She planned romantic dinners that he missed. She scheduled weekend getaways that he postponed. She suggested marriage counseling, but Declan insisted they were fine, just busy. She wore beautiful lingerie to bed, but he never came to bed. She cried in the bathtub while he worked in his office 50 feet away. Somewhere along the way, she stopped trying. She stopped crying too. She just existed in the beautiful prison of their mansion, wondering when she had become so small and invisible. That morning, staring into her coffee, something shifted inside her. She remembered the woman she used to be before becoming Mrs. Declan Bennett. She had been passionate about her career in brand strategy, creative and driven, with a talent for understanding what made people connect with products and ideas. She had walked away from it all when Declan convinced her she didn't need to work, that being his wife was enough, but it wasn't enough. Not anymore. The decision. Natalie opened her laptop and began updating her resume. Her hands shook slightly as she typed, but there was determination in her jaw. She reached out to old colleagues, checked job boards, and polished her portfolio. Within a week, she had 3 interviews scheduled. Declan noticed nothing. He left early and came home late, barely acknowledging her existence except when they needed to appear together at social functions. She was the perfect accessory then, beautiful and poised, smiling for photographs while dying inside. The best opportunity came from Meridian Creative, a boutique marketing agency known for innovative campaigns and a collaborative culture. The interview was scheduled with Vincent Torres, the founder and creative director who had built the agency from nothing into one of Seattle's most respected firms. Meeting Vincent. Vincent's office occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse in Pioneer Square. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Elliott Bay, and the space buzzed with creative energy. People collaborated at standing desks, debated ideas over espresso, and seemed genuinely excited about their work. Vincent himself greeted Natalie with a warm handshake and an engaging smile. He was 38 with salt and pepper hair, kind brown eyes, and an easy confidence that came from passion rather than ego. He wore jeans and a fitted button-down, looking more like an artist than a businessman. "Your work on the Cascade campaign 5 years ago was brilliant," Vincent said, gesturing for her to sit. "The way you connected emotional storytelling with brand identity, that's rare talent. Why did you stop?" The question was direct but not unkind. Natalie found herself being honest in a way she hadn't been in years. I got married and convinced myself I didn't need a career. I was wrong. Vincent nodded with understanding. Well, I believe people can rediscover their purpose. I'd love to have someone with your instincts on my team. We're working on a campaign for a sustainable fashion brand, and I think you'd bring exactly the perspective we need. The first day Natalie started the following Monday. She bought new professional clothes that made her feel capable and strong. She got her auburn hair cut in a sleek style that framed her face with confidence. When she looked in the mirror, she saw glimpses of the woman she used to be. At Meridian Creative, she was immediately welcomed into the team. Vincent introduced her to designers, copywriters, and strategists who treated her ideas with respect and enthusiasm. In the first brainstorming session, her suggestions sparked genuine excitement. That angle is perfect, Vincent said, his eyes lighting up. Natalie, you just gave us the emotional core we've been searching for. She felt something she hadn't experienced in years, valued. Seen. Alive. That evening, she came home at 7, energized and happy. Declan was still at his office downtown. She ate dinner alone, made notes for tomorrow's meeting, and went to bed with a smile on her face. When Declan finally came home at midnight, he didn't even check her room. Growing connection over the following weeks, Natalie thrived. She contributed to campaigns with fresh ideas and strategic thinking that impressed everyone, especially Vincent. They often stayed late refining presentations, debating creative directions, discovering they shared similar philosophies about authentic brand storytelling. Vincent listened when she spoke. He asked thoughtful questions about her ideas and her life. He noticed when she seemed tired and brought her coffee. He celebrated her victories and encouraged her growth. The connection between them deepened naturally, built on mutual respect and genuine interest. One evening, working late on a pitch presentation, Vincent looked up from his laptop. You have incredible instincts, Natalie. You understand people in a way that can't be taught. It's been amazing watching you rediscover your confidence these past weeks. She met his eyes and felt warmth spread through her chest. Thank you for giving me this chance. I forgot what it felt like to matter. Something passed between them in that moment, something neither acknowledged but both felt. The office suddenly seemed very quiet, very intimate. At home, Declan remained oblivious. He never asked about her work or noticed the transformation happening right in front of him. The awakening. The celebration. 6 weeks after Natalie started at Meridian Creative, the sustainable fashion campaign launched to spectacular success. The client was thrilled, industry publications praised the innovative approach, and Vincent decided to celebrate with the entire team at an upscale restaurant overlooking the water. Natalie wore a sapphire blue dress that hugged her curves and made her green eyes sparkle. She felt beautiful and confident in a way she hadn't in years. When she arrived at the restaurant, Vincent's face lit up. You look absolutely stunning, he said warmly, and she believed him because his admiration felt genuine and respectful. The dinner was filled with laughter, wine, and the easy camaraderie of people who genuinely enjoyed working together. Vincent sat beside Natalie, attentive and engaged, refilling her wine glass, sharing stories that made the whole table lean in with interest. At one point, their hands brushed as they both reached for bread, and neither pulled away immediately. Their eyes met, held for several heartbeats. Natalie felt her pulse quicken. Across the table, someone was taking photos for the agency's social media, capturing the joy and success of the evening. The photo. Declan was in his downtown office at 9 that evening, reviewing quarterly reports with his CFO, when his phone buzzed. A business associate had tagged him in an Instagram post from the restaurant where Meridian Creative was celebrating. He opened it absently, then froze. The photograph showed a long table of happy people raising wine glasses in a toast. And there, in the center, was Natalie. She looked radiant, her head tilted back in genuine laughter, her whole face glowing with joy. Beside her sat a man Declan didn't recognize, leaning close with his hand resting on the back of her chair, looking at Natalie like she was the most fascinating person in the world. Something cold and sharp twisted in Declan's stomach. When had Natalie started looking like that? So alive and beautiful and happy? And who was this man making her smile in ways Declan hadn't seen in years? For the first time in their marriage, Declan felt genuine fear. He was losing something precious, something he had taken completely for granted. The confrontation. Declan left the office immediately, his driver navigating through Seattle traffic while he scrolled obsessively through more photos from the event. Meridian Creative Team celebration. So this was work-related. But the intimacy between Natalie and this man was undeniable. He reached their estate at 10:30. The house was dark. Natalie wasn't home yet. He paced through the rooms, loosening his tie, pouring scotch he couldn't drink, checking his watch every few minutes. She arrived just after 11, humming softly, her cheeks flushed from wine and happiness. She startled when she saw him standing in the darkened living room. "You're home early," she said, setting down her purse. "Who were you with tonight?" His voice came out harsh, accusatory. Natalie frowned. "I told you this morning. The team celebration for our campaign launch." "Who is he?" Declan pulled out his phone, showing her the photo. She looked at the screen, then back at him with disbelief. "That's Vincent Torres, my boss. I've mentioned him several times. You look very comfortable with your boss." Something dangerous flashed in Natalie's eyes. "We work well together. He values my contributions." "I bet he does." The words dripped with bitter accusation. The truth erupts. Natalie set down her purse with deliberate calm. "What exactly are you suggesting, Declan?" "I'm suggesting that my wife seems very cozy with another man." She laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "Your wife? When did I become your wife again?" "Because for the past 2 years, I've been more like furniture that came with the house." "Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic?" Her voice rose. "You want to see dramatic? Let me tell you about dramatic, Declan. Dramatic is crying yourself to sleep every night wondering why your husband finds spreadsheets more interesting than you. Dramatic is wearing lingerie that never gets noticed because you sleep in a different room. Dramatic is celebrating your anniversary alone because your husband forgot for the 3rd year in a row." Declan stepped back, stung. "I've been building our future." "Our future?" Natalie's voice broke. "There is no our future, Declan. There's your future, your company, your success. I'm just the pretty accessory you bring to charity galas so people think you're a complete person. That's not fair." "Fair?" She was shouting now, years of pain erupting. "You want to talk about fair? I gave up my career, my identity, everything I was, because you promised me partnership and love. Instead, I got a beautiful prison and a husband who treats me like I don't exist." Declan felt each word like a physical blow. "I do care about you." "When?" Natalie demanded. "When was the last time you asked about my day and actually listened? When was the last time you touched me with anything besides obligation at a public event? When was the last time you chose me over a conference call?" The silence that followed was deafening. "I tried, Declan." Tears streamed down Natalie's face. "For 2 years, I tried everything. I made your favorite meals that you never came home to eat. I planned romantic weekends that you postponed indefinitely. I begged you to go to counseling, and you said you were too busy. I did everything except set myself on fire to get your attention, and it was never enough." "I'm sorry," Declan whispered, his voice hoarse. Sorry doesn't fix years of neglect. But her voice had lost its edge, replaced by exhaustion. "You only care now because you think another man wants me. You didn't care when I needed you, when I was dying inside our marriage, when I was so lonely I could barely breathe." The investigation. Over the next week, Declan's jealousy consumed him. He couldn't focus on work, couldn't stop thinking about Natalie and Vincent. He did something he never imagined he would do. He hired a private investigator. The photos arrived days later. Natalie and Vincent leaving the office together, laughing at something on her phone. Having lunch at a cafe, sitting close as they reviewed materials on a tablet. Vincent's hand on Natalie's shoulder as they walked down the street, her face turned up toward his with genuine affection. There was nothing explicitly romantic in any image. No kissing, no hand-holding. But the intimacy was undeniable. The way they occupied space together, comfortable and natural. The way Vincent looked at her with such obvious admiration. The way Natalie glowed with happiness in every single photograph. Declan felt like he was watching his wife fall in love with another man in slow motion, and the worst part was knowing he had driven her straight into Vincent's arms through years of neglect and indifference. The realization. Late one night, unable to sleep, Declan walked through their massive house. He stood in doorways of rooms they never used, looked at expensive furniture no one sat on, artwork no one appreciated. He had built an empire and filled a mansion with beautiful things, but he had forgotten to build a life with the woman he married. He found himself in Natalie's bedroom. Her nightstand held a book, reading glasses, a framed photo from their wedding day. They looked so happy in that picture, so full of hope and love. When had he stopped being that man? When had success become more important than the person who had believed in him from the beginning? Declan picked up the photo, studying Natalie's radiant smile on their wedding day. She had looked at him with such love and trust. And he had broken that trust not through betrayal or cruelty, but through something worse, complete indifference. He finally understood what he was about to lose. The choice. Desperate attempts. The next morning, Declan did something he hadn't done in 18 months. He came to breakfast. Natalie looked up in surprise from her coffee, her expression guarded. "I cleared my schedule today," Declan said, his voice uncertain. "I thought maybe we could spend time together. Drive up the coast, have lunch somewhere, just talk." Natalie studied him carefully. "I have work, Declan. I can't just take the day off because you suddenly decided I exist. Please." The word came out raw, vulnerable. "I know I don't deserve it, but please give me a chance to make things right." She saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen in years, genuine emotion, real fear of losing her. But she also felt the weight of years of disappointment. "I have a meeting at 10. I can't cancel it." Over the following days, Declan tried everything. He sent flowers to her office, which only embarrassed her in front of her colleagues. He canceled business trips and came home early, hovering awkwardly as she prepared dinner, trying to make conversation about her day. He suggested therapy, vacations, anything to show he was serious about changing. But Natalie had changed too. She was no longer the woman desperately seeking his attention and approval. She had rediscovered her strength, her purpose, her value. And she wasn't sure if love could be rebuilt from ruins this deep. Vincent's confession. At work, Vincent noticed Natalie's distraction and concern. One evening, as they wrapped up a client presentation, he asked her to stay behind. "Is everything okay? You seem troubled lately." Natalie hesitated, then found herself telling him everything. About Declan's sudden attention, his jealousy, the years of neglect that led to this moment. Vincent listened with compassion and understanding. "I need to tell you something," Vincent said quietly when she finished. "And I hope it doesn't make things more complicated, but I think you deserve honesty." He took a deep breath. "I have feelings for you, Natalie. Real feelings that go beyond professional respect. I've tried to ignore them because you're married and because I never want to put you in an uncomfortable position. But watching you struggle with this decision, I realized you should know the truth." Natalie's heart raced. "Vincent. I'm not asking you to leave your husband for me," he continued. "I would never do that. But I want you to know that you are extraordinary. You're talented, brilliant, funny, and beautiful. You deserve someone who sees that every single day and never takes it for granted. Whatever you decide about your marriage, please don't settle for being invisible ever again. The internal struggle. That night, Natalie sat alone in her bedroom, her mind spinning. Two men, two completely different futures. Declan represented years of history, the man she had once loved deeply, now desperately trying to become that person again. Vincent represented possibility, someone who already saw her value and treated her accordingly. But this wasn't really about choosing between men. It was about choosing herself. She thought about the woman she had been before marriage, confident, ambitious, alive with purpose. She thought about the ghost she had become, shrinking herself to fit into the empty spaces of Declan's life. And she thought about who she was now, rediscovered, rebuilding, refusing to disappear again. Whatever decision she made needed to honor that woman. The conversation. Natalie asked Declan to meet her in the living room one evening. He came immediately, hope and fear warring in his expression. "I need you to understand something," Natalie began, her voice steady. "I don't need you to change because you're jealous. I needed you to change 2 years ago when I was drowning in loneliness and begging for your attention. What's happening now isn't about Vincent or any other man. It's about me finally valuing myself enough to refuse being invisible." Declan nodded, pain clear on his face. "I understand. And I hate that I only realized what I was losing when I saw another man treat you the way I should have been treating you all along. The question isn't whether you can change for a few weeks while you're scared of losing me," Natalie continued. "The question is whether you genuinely want the kind of marriage that requires showing up every day, being present and engaged, choosing partnership over convenience." "I do want that," Declan said earnestly. "I know I can't erase the past, but I want to build a different future. I want to be the husband you deserved from the beginning." The decision. Natalie looked at her husband, really looked at him, searching for truth beneath his words. She saw regret, determination, and something that might be genuine understanding. But she also knew that real change took more than promises and grand gestures. It required sustained effort, daily choices, fundamental shifts in priorities. "I'm not ready to forgive you yet," she said honestly. "And I'm not ready to promise this marriage can be saved. But I'm willing to try if you're willing to do the real work. That means therapy, both individual and couples. That means you examining why you prioritized everything else over our relationship. That means building something completely new instead of trying to return to what we had before. Whatever it takes," Declan promised. "And I'm keeping my job," Natalie added firmly. "I'm not giving up my career or my independence ever again. I need my own purpose and identity outside this marriage. I wouldn't ask you to." The next day, Natalie had a difficult conversation with Vincent. She thanked him for his honesty and kindness, for helping her rediscover her strength. She told him she needed to try working on her marriage, but that regardless of what happened, his friendship and mentorship had changed her life. Vincent hugged her gently. "You deserve all the happiness in the world, Natalie. I hope you find it, whatever form it takes. And you'll always have a place here at Meridian." 6 months later. Therapy wasn't easy. Declan had to confront uncomfortable truths about using work as an escape, about measuring worth only through professional achievement, about his fear of emotional vulnerability. Natalie had to process years of hurt and learn to advocate for her needs without apology. Therapy wasn't easy. Declan had to confront uncomfortable truths about using work as an escape, about measuring worth only through professional achievement, about his fear of emotional vulnerability. Natalie had to process years of hurt and learn to advocate for her needs without apology. They had setbacks and difficult conversations. Some days, Natalie wondered if they were building on a foundation too damaged to hold. But slowly, incrementally, things began to shift. Declan started coming home for dinner 3 nights a week. He asked about her projects at work and actually listened to her answers. He scheduled regular date nights and protected that time fiercely. He learned to be present, to put down his phone, to show affection without waiting for special occasions. Natalie thrived at Meridian Creative, earning a promotion and leading campaigns that won industry recognition. She maintained healthy boundaries between work and home, bringing her full self to both without sacrificing either. The new beginning. One Saturday morning, Natalie woke to find Declan already up, making breakfast in the kitchen. Real breakfast, not protein shakes. He looked up when she entered, his smile genuine and warm. "Good morning, beautiful. I made your favorite pancakes." They ate together at the breakfast bar, talking about their plans for the day. Simple, ordinary conversation. But there was presence in it, genuine interest and connection. After breakfast, they walked along the waterfront, holding hands for the first time in years. The touch felt new and familiar all at once. "I almost lost you," Declan said quietly, watching the waves. "I almost destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too blind and stupid to see what mattered." "You did lose me for a while," Natalie replied honestly. "But maybe we both needed to lose the people we were becoming in order to find something better." They still had work to do. Trust rebuilt slowly, and some scars remained tender. But they were building something authentic now, a partnership based on mutual respect and daily choices to show up for each other. The lesson. That evening, sitting together on their deck watching the sunset, Natalie reflected on the journey that brought them to this moment. The pain had been necessary, the breaking point inevitable. Sometimes you had to lose yourself completely to discover who you truly were. Sometimes a marriage had to almost die to be reborn as something stronger. She thought briefly of Vincent, who had shown her kindness when she needed it most. He had been a mirror reflecting her worth when she couldn't see it herself. She would always be grateful for that gift. But this moment, sitting beside Declan while he held her hand and truly saw her, this was what she had been fighting for all along. Not the fantasy of their early romance, but the reality of two flawed people choosing each other every single day. "I love you," Declan whispered, pulling her close. "I love you too," Natalie replied, meaning it in a way that was deeper and truer than before. The city lights began twinkling as darkness fell. In the distance, she could see other homes, other lives, other stories unfolding. Everyone fighting their own battles, seeking their own happiness, learning their own lessons about love and worth and presence. Natalie rested her head on Declan's shoulder and smiled. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough.